Is life for us? Is life for us? Yes, thank you, Bernard. You don't have to answer that because I want you to think about what comes after this. The title for my talk today is The Great Banquet. And I want to draw your attention to this wonderful altar that Sandra Glotz made for us. There are pies on the altar, along with apples and pears and grapes. And these pies being blessed right now on the altar as a symbol of the great banquet of life are going to be taken over there, and you can have some after the service. And you can have the grapes and the apples. So, yeah, let's give her a hand. This is so fabulous. So, I'm going to tell you the story of the Great Banquet, and I actually tell this story enough that it's familiar to people that have been here any length of time. In fact, I'm getting some nods, and it's so familiar that people have offered me other stories that mean the same thing in case I want a substitute, but I like this one really a lot. So, I'll tell you, I'll start by telling you where I got it, because I don't think I've given you the whole story of the Great Banquet before. When I was in ministerial school, I knew that that was the last time in my life that I would get to shop around churches, because I was going to have one. And so I wasn't going to get to go to church very much. So during ministerial school, I went to a lot of churches around Oakland and Berkeley. I was living in the East Bay at the time. And this story came from a very traditional Presbyterian minister in Berkeley. And so I just want to honor him, because I have picked up that story from the Presbyterian Church and have given it to you many, many times, and I'm going to give it to you again right now. So here's the story. There is a great banquet, a party that is being given, as big as this, going back room after room after room after room. And invitations go out to all the land. Everybody gets an invitation. And the time for the party has arrived, and we're going to focus on two main guests. We're going to focus on the uncomfortable guest that manages to get himself to the party, and the comfortable guest. So the uncomfortable guest comes in kind of hunched over with like a big overcoat on, and he doesn't meet the gaze of anybody else at the party. And he goes and he takes things from the table and sort of stuffs it into all the pockets in his overcoat, so that it gets bigger and bigger, hoping nobody notices him, and then he leaves the party. Not a very good time at the party, but, at least he's got, some pie for later. The comfortable guest walks into the party and surveys the opulence and takes a deep breath and is just gobsmacked at how glorious it all is. And across the room, he catches the eye of the host, and the host beckons him over. So the comfortable guest goes over and embraces the host, and the host says, "I am so glad you're here. Look at this. I mean, the cooks outdid themselves. There is everything here." And it goes on for rooms and rooms and rooms. So I want you to have the best time you can possibly have here, and I want you actually to bring your friends and share all of this good stuff with them, and stay as long as you like, have a great time, and don't worry about getting to everything, because you know what? I know, this is so great, Sandra, pumpkin pie. I know that pumpkin pie is your very favorite, and I have a pumpkin pie for you in the kitchen. Just go in and tell the cooks when you're leaving that you want your pie. And then the host goes off to welcome someone else. So, and the comfortable guest does just that, has a great time, brings his friends in, says, try this, try this. Here's some edamame noodles. that are just, fabulous. They're full of protein and they taste just like spaghetti. So, and he goes, just describes everything. You can get those at Costco, So that's the story. And of course, the symbolism is that this is life. That party is life. And the lavishness is laid out, whether you come in and grab what you think you can carry, or whether you just take your time and enjoy every single morsel and share it with your friends. Life is lavish and safe and supportive and personal. And the Father knows what ye have need of before you even ask. So I don't think that the comfortable guest came in and said, God, I hope they have pumpkin pie. But that was his favorite, and it was provided. So that is the story of the life you're living and the party you're at. And the rest of the talk is how to enjoy it as much as the comfortable guest. So there are banquet principles, and here they are. Now you might recognize this table. Any of you that watch Downton Abbey, I love this picture that Mary found because the actual staff of the televising is fixing people, and caring for the actors. So here are the principles of the banquet. Number 1, be aware that you're at the banquet. Be aware that you are actually at a party that is being given in your honor. The principle of spirit is that God is all there is and God is good. And there is an unending supply of good for each one of us. It cannot be any other way. That there is an unending supply. That's why the theme is your joyous life this year. As joyful as you are right now, you can be more joyful because that's what the party is about. More joy, more peace, more wondrous love and abundance. So all of those divine qualities that we all want, love, peace, abundance, inspiration, connection, blessing, is present without us forcing anything. We don't have to grab it. We don't have to look for it under a bush. It's right here for us. So we live in an abundant universe. You just look at the leaves on the trees and the grains of sand, and we live in an abundant universe, but it is what is in each of our minds that gives us the experience of abundance of whatever it is. Because, of course, in this abundant universe, if you look for it, you can have an abundance of stuff that you don't want. You can have an abundance of conflict, poverty, loneliness, boredom. And if you have that, and if you say, I don't know how I got this load of misery, but it's here, there's a little process that you can do, and it's simply to say, oh yes, it is just as I have chosen. Because that's really the truth. And whether you choose it consciously or whether you choose it by default, whether you choose it by habit or whether you choose it because it's just what you're familiar with, it is some mechanism of your mind and feeling state that gives you an abundance of what you don't want. So it's usually how you sort for what you notice. If you sort for problems, you're going to get those. If you sort for blessings, you're going to get those. And sometimes if you're new to this, it's sometimes easier to listen to someone else, because someone else, you can see into other people sometimes when you can't see so well into yourself. That's why you go to a practitioner, by the way, because the practitioner can see right into you. You can be saying something and they go, by any chance do you believe that? So if people say, I'm always ready for greater joy, I'm always ready for a new adventure, I'm always ready to have my heart opened a new way. Well, you know, you can tell what is going on in their life. And if you hear somebody say, I wonder what calamity will happen today, or even so far so good, you know that they're sorting for something else and are probably experiencing something else. So you're at the banquet whether you know it or not. You're getting an abundance of what you expect and what humanity expects. If you don't have your own practice, you're going to get the average of the abundance of the world, which usually believes that, you know, you're going to get the flu in the winter and all that stuff. So, second principle is pay attention to unfolding details. So let's say that you realize that you're at the banquet and you've been ordering up an abundance of something that you don't want. And so you start shifting your consciousness by noticing the blessings that you do want more of. Then, when those blessings come in, you notice them and you say, that is the result of my work. Not, well, gosh, look what happened there. I must be lucky. No, it's the result of your work. So here's an example. So Scott is giving a 2-week class. This is the second week, so you're going to have to wait for the next time it comes around, which will come around about 3 times a year. It's called Thriving Through Science of Mind. And I took the class, and I'll be there today too, because I love to be a student. I mean, I love to go to class, and Scott is a really good teacher. So he taught us how to do affirmations. I know how to do affirmations, but, you know, I just followed right along, did what he told me. And so there are several categories that he wanted us to write affirmations for. One was love, one was money, one was making money. So this is my affirmation for making money. I easily welcome money into my life. I do my work and am showered with all blessings, including money. So this is what happened this week. I went to Costco and got those edamame noodles. I went to Costco, and I had a Costco cash card that I thought had $20 on it. The last time I used it, I used it almost all the way down, and I thought I just had $20 more on it. So I bought, you know, $70 worth of stuff at Costco, and I gave them 2 cards, the cash card and my credit card. So they said, oh, you've got more than enough on this cash card. You've got $20 left. Now, how did that happen? I went in with $20 on the card, and I came out with $20 on the card and $70 worth of stuff. And so I immediately texted Scott and go, it's working. And so what I want to tell you is that's a result of my work. That is a result of my work. It is not an accident. It's not happenstance. It is the discovery that money comes to me easily. And when I made that affirmation, I had no idea it was going to come in the form of a Costco card or a check in the mail or you know, somebody taking me out to lunch. I didn't know, but I was looking for it and I found it. And now I'm going to do this some more, and I'm going to find some more. It's the banquet. It's unending good. So this works actually for any of the gifts that you get, including those gifts that are a surprise and not particularly exactly what you were looking for. So this is an example of a meditation that came out of Prac 1. The Prac 1 students rotate doing guided meditations, and they're already good. So Laurel Wilson, this is part of her meditation. Imagine that every single being is here to teach you, to enlighten you to your own purpose and power. Whoever you encounter is acting as they do for your benefit, to provide just the teachings and joy and difficulties you need in order to awaken perfect patience, equanimity, courage, compassion, and love. See what lessons each offer you. You have a lot to learn about love and presence, tolerance and courage from each encounter with them. So this is an example of how we can take something at the banquet, maybe, escargot that you don't think you like, and taste it and say, here's the benefit in that. You get the analogy. Somebody comes to you, they treat you with disregard, and you use that to tenderize your heart, and it becomes a blessing. So anything that comes to you can be a blessing from the banquet. So the next principle, you get that? Okay, good. All right. Let go of concern. So the uncomfortable guest is very concerned for survival. The uncomfortable guest doesn't know that it is, as it says in the 12th chapter of Luke, it is the Father's pleasure to give you the kingdom. So a lot of us, I think, are programmed to worry, to think there's not enough because we're taught by parents and we're taught by advertising, and we kind of do look out there for what might go wrong so that we can fix it. We don't need to fix it because we're at this banquet. And if we just stopped worrying, we could hear all kinds of stories of sufficiency. People finding money, people opening the mailbox just in time for whatever's good in the mailbox, people finding a roommate just in time, people running into the right perfect person on the street that they haven't seen for a long time, but that connection is just made absolutely perfectly. But in order to have that be recognizable, you have to let go of worry and expect the very best to happen, so that everything within you is congruent of peace and blessing and gratitude. And that's why gratitude is so powerful, because we look at what we love and we get to create more of it. So next, the next principle is share your good. The host shares with the comfortable guest and encourages the comfortable guest to share as well. So we have been given all these blessings by God, and they're not actually given to us for us to own. They are given to us so that they flow through us. We give them again. We get them, we give them again. Because guess what? You don't take anything with you. There really isn't anything that is ours, except our thoughts and our consciousness and our experiences, which are unformed. They're not stuff. They're in that realm of the unseen. The stuff that we covet is not ours. And it's just as well to pass it on, to love it, to use it, to pass it on, because as we create this flow in our life, more comes in, more goes out, more comes in, more goes out, and we have the joy of giving and the joy of receiving. So this is the last Sunday that anyone will formally ask you from the pulpit to participate in the commitment program for next year. We have less than half of the people that are, I'm sure, going to pledge. So if you love this community, think about how much of your financial abundance you can possibly share with us and feel really, really good about. Because the opposite, because I've said this and you're thinking about it, there's something that's going on in your mind right now, and it's either, oh yay, I get to share my abundance with the church that I love, I get to share with this community, this center, my spiritual home, I love it, oh gosh, that's great. Or you're going, I wonder how little I can give and still feel relatively okay about myself. Or you're saying, maybe I won't pledge this year, or, oh God, she's asking for money again. So any of those things are the belief in lack. So I've kind of caught you. I've caught you by offering you this thought, and you respond to it either on the end of the line of, oh, yay, let me share, or on the end of the line, don't ask me, I don't have enough. So where do you want to be? And if you're in this, I don't want to share because I don't have it, that's the mindset of the uncomfortable guest. And the comfortable guest says, here you go. There's always more where that came from. Next is accept the gifts for yourself. So in the Bible, in Luke 15, Luke 15 has 3 stories of parties. Now, if you're familiar with the Bible, you probably don't think of these stories as party stories, but they are. They're banquet stories. The stories seem to be about somebody losing something and finding it again. The first one goes like this. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he lose one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after that which is lost until he find it? And when he hath found it, this is the key, when he hath found it, he layeth it on his shoulders rejoicing. And when he cometh home, he calleth together his friends and neighbors, saying unto them, rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost. So it's about a party when something is lost and found again. The next story is about a woman who has 10 silver pieces and she loses one. And Jesus says, who would not sweep the floor until you find it? And when you find it, you go and you call your friends and your neighbors and say, rejoice with me. I have found this silver piece that was lost and now it's found. And then, of course, the third story is about the prodigal son who goes out and says, you know, I'm going to take my inheritance and I am going to live the high life. And of course, he spends all of his money and he ends up with the pigs, which is a very bad place for a Jewish boy. And then he says, I can go to my father's house. And he starts home, and from far off, his father sees him, never says, you had all the pie you're going to get. He does not say that. He races to him with the robe and the ring and says, let's have a feast because my son that was lost is now found. So think about if we're not getting our blessings and if we're not sharing our blessings, we're lost. We're not at the banquet. We are lost. It goes on to say that the joy of one sinner repenting is greater than, you know, all the 99 sheep that never get lost. And the point of that is the sin part is missing the mark. It's an error. It's an error in thinking. And the error in thinking is that there's only so much. The error of thinking is I have to do this myself. The error of thinking is there is a limit, you know, I got to get mine before somebody else gets it. That's the error of thinking, and when we are there, we are lost. And so the story of the sheep and the story of the coin and the story of the birds of the air and the lilies of the field that are given to are so evident of the lavishness of life supporting its own. And then that last story of the prodigal son, when we have to participate actually and say, no, I'm going back to the party. That party is going on and I am going back to the party. No one can force you to accept these gifts. And in order to accept them, we really have to connect with our source. And that's the other piece I want to leave you with is, I don't want you to think that this philosophy is kind of like an advance letter to Santa. And we get to say, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I expect the universe to give it to me. What happens is we say, I want more joy in my life. I believe that at this banquet of life, there is more joy. And then we seek for the evidence of that, and we find it. And we do the same with love. We do the same with abundance. We do the same with inspiration. We do the same with all of those gifts of God. And what happens as we look for and find is we establish a relationship with God. It's the relationship of the comfortable guest and the host. That is what saves us. That is what gives us the ongoing joys of everlasting good, because it's after God kind of catches us with answering a couple of those prayers where we are then the partner of the source of all. And as the partner of the source of all, we are co-creators of the banquet. And it gets really good. It basically gets really good. So the last thing I want you to remember is that the invitation is always good. It's not that the invitation was just for the one date. The banquet is always going on, and you can come to the banquet at any time. Remember the last time you had a revelation and you thought, oh, my goodness, I could have been enjoying this all along. I could have been enjoying this vacation destination. I could have been enjoying this beautiful hour in the morning right as the sun comes up. I could have been enjoying this TV program, or, the edamame noodles. They were here all along, and, I just now discovered it. Same thing. I could have been relishing a relationship with my source all this time. Thank God I've got it now. You can come to the banquet at any time. Let's take a big breath on that. That is so great. So, coming back to the spiritual principle, the basic spiritual principle that we've been talking about, this is it. And that is, all good is eternally available. Always, always. And then this saying from what we believe that we studied all of last year, and that is, we believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. That is a basic teaching of this philosophy. And should you want to go deeper with this lesson, here it is. And that is for you to get up every morning and say, I am a divine distribution center of God's good. Thank you, darlings, and I'll see you at the party.
I think we're at the party right now, Carol.
What?
We're at the party right now.
We are at the party.
We are at the party.
We are at the party.
This is the party.
This is the party. I'm seeing you at the party. So let's do this inner work, and we're going to have this little chant in the middle of it 2 or 3 times. So please join me within. And sit in your heart, if you would. And let the banquet of your life appear before you. Here's a good question. What good has been laid out for you that you have already accepted? What good has been laid out for you that you have already accepted? Let that person or situation or job or the scene from your bedroom window, the child that is doing so well, whatever it is, your perfect mate, the beloved that is right next to you, that good that you have accepted, and feel the gratitude well up from within. Feel the gratitude that is overflowing. Feel the gratitude that is, I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so blessed. And let's sing that together.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And now turn your awareness to a blessing that you are still seeking. And see if you can discern that in a quality of life. You may think you want a red car, but what you want really is freedom. You may think that you want a whole lot of money in the bank, but what you want is peace of mind. And go for that quality of experience, that variation on joy that you know is right there, right there. And accept it with gratitude in the same way and be willing to share it.